5 books that changed my perspective about money management that helps me get me out of my rat race and achieve financial freedom. Hi, I'm Melanie, and in this channel I reviews all the tips and strategy that helps me get to financial freedom before the age of 30. Now the first book is a very popular one and I think a lot of people would have recommended to you by now. It's the Rich Dad and Poor Dad book. Now this book taught me about the basic of personal finance, on how I can never save my way to financial freedom, and taught me the difference between a good dad and a bad dad. Now the next book is also by Robert Kiyosaki. It's the Cashflow, Quadrant and Guide to Financial Freedom. Now once I've learned that I can never save my way to financial freedom, this book really opened my eyes to let me see that to actually achieve financial freedom, I need to be in the B and the I quadrant, and that is to be a business owner of my own and also an investor. Now the next book that helped me achieve financial freedom is the E-Myth Revisit. It's a book about why most small business doesn't work and what to do about it. So this book teaches me how to run a business. And I think really through this book, it actually helps me avoid a lot of the mistakes that I could have made if I haven't read this book. It teaches me the importance of systemizing the business. It teaches me the importance of having protocols to things to help keep the business running smoothly. If you find this video helpful so far, don't forget to smash that bell notification button right now and share this video with your friends. Now the next book that I want to recommend is the Barefoot Investor. Now if you're in Australia, then I absolutely double highly recommend this book. But even if you're not in Australia, I still recommend this book, because what it does is it actually teaches you how to manage personal finance. It teaches you how to budget every month, and it also gives you some practical advice on what to change, especially if you're in Australia. It recommends the bank that you can sign up for, it recommends the superannuation that you should look out for, and things like that that will really help you out in saving money. It is very practical, so practical to the point that I actually changed my own superannuation and my own bank account after reading this book. So yes, I highly recommend it. Now the next book I recommend is From Zero to 130 Properties in 3.5 Years. Now this book really helps me understand the ins and outs of property investment. It makes me understand the difference between positive gearing property and negative gearing properties. It teaches me valuable lessons on things like not to buy property that's gonna suck my cash flow out of me every month. Therefore, lucky even though we're in this pandemic, I'm still not in too much financial difficulty even after reducing the rent, because most of my house are positive gearing to begin with. It also teaches me how to research for properties and what to look out for, and not to put emotion attached to an investment property. Now I know that's 5 books listed already, but I have one very important bonus tip for everyone who is thinking of starting investing, and that is the Cashflow 101 and Cashflow 102 board game. Yes, you heard me. It's a board game. It's nothing boring to read about. It's not long and tedious. It's actually fun to play. And that is the first game that I learned about managing my money that my parents bought for me when I was a teenager. And that's the game that led me to reading all these books to begin with. So if you have children at home, I highly recommend that you buy it for them and they can try it out so that they learn all these skills from young. Now this game is like Monopoly, but a lot more realistic, and it's quite a difficult game even for a lot of adults. It teaches us the basic of income, expenses, assets and liability. So in this game, you have to focus on all 4 columns all the time, and on top of that you will have debts that you have to pay, and then you will have all these opportunity to buy property and to buy shares, and you have to keep monitoring the share as it changes in price, so that it really incorporates as realistic of a real world as possible, I think, into a very fun game. It teaches complex theory to teach people who plays the game on what is a good debt and what is a bad debt, and when do you pay down a bad debt and when do you keep a good debt, and things like that that you would have read a lot on in books or self-help books, but just don't really know how to apply it in real life. all in the same time, you have to keep watching the share market that's constantly changing when to buy, when to sell, and then keep coming up with property opportunities to buy, but you have to know it yourself whether it's a good deal or it's a bad deal to buy this property given your current financial situation. So it's a very complex game that teaches you about financial education that you always read about in books but just don't really know how to practice it. And it lets you practice it in this board game. And once you get a hang of it, you realize, it's actually not that bad, it's actually not that hard. And that actually is a very realistic or very good knowledge to have and to bring it across to real life practice. Therefore, I could not recommend this game enough for you. These are all the tips I have for you. Until next time, see ya!